Okay, so this is the kind of problem that I was talking about. And it's a continuation of what we did last semester. Last semester, we learned to graph a line. The only thing we're going to do here is graph two lines. But we're not just going to do that. We're going to solve a system of equations. Up till now, we've only solved problems that had one equation. But you can see in this problem, we've got we've got two equations. Let me circle just in red for a moment. These two equations. Now, the thing about two equations is that we not only have two equations, but we have two variables, two unknowns, x and y. So our answer, our solution, will have an x and y. It'll have two parts to it. So what we want to do here, and by the way, this first method, we're going to have different methods to solve these, but this method by graphing, like I said, is something we did last semester. We just did it with one equation. So let me remind you that when we graph an equation, usually, the way we showed you last semester, is that we want to usually use the slope-intercept form. We need to use the slope and we need to use the intercept. So what they've done here is they've given you these equations. I'm going to call this the purple one because you'll notice that down here they wrote the same equation in purple. Okay, and when you do this on IXL, you will actually have a little bit of easier time because it will, when you just click on the grid, it will put the points where you want them. I'm going to kind of draw them in here. So let me remind you that when we have an equation like this purple one in slope-intercept form, y is equal to mx. The m is the slope, and let me change color here. The m is our slope, and the mx plus b. The b is our y-intercept. So I've used different colors here. So in this problem, our slope, let me write that word here, is the number or fraction, a fraction is a number, that comes in front of the x. It doesn't include the x. The slope is just in this problem 3/5, or 3 over 5. And the y-intercept, I'm going to use blue for that, the y-intercept. Remember, that's where our line, we're going to draw a line, we're going to graph a line, where it crosses the y-axis. And in this problem, it's 7, but we want to remember that it's actually 0, 7. 0, comma 7, because there's a 7 right here. And for the slope, there's a 3/5 right there. So to use those two, we want to start at 7, our y-intercept, where our line crosses the y-axis. I'm going to use purple here. I'm going to use a purple. Again, your dots are going to be easier to plot on yours. I might zoom in a bit here. I'm going to start at 7 on the y-axis, or 0, comma 7. 0, comma 7. And then my slope is 3/5. And that means, remember that slope means that's our rise and our run. If I will ask you what slope means probably 20 different times here. And every time I ask you, I want you to say those 2 or 3 words. Rise, over, run. Technically, it's 3 words. But the 2 words I want you to remember are rise and run. Rise, over, run. And so that means that we're going to rise 3, we're going to go up 3, and we're going to run, we're going to go over 5. One more thing I want to remind you of is that this slope, this number, this fraction, is a positive. So our line is going to go up. If it was negative, our line would go down. And when I say up or down, I'm talking about as we move from left to right. So let me do what I just said. I'm going to go up 3, 1, well, you can't see it on here. I'm going to go up 3 and over 5. Let me do it, and then I'll make it with a slightly, maybe a darker. Up 1, 2, 3, and then over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not that neat. Let me zoom in here so we can see it better. I'm going to go up 3, up 1, up 2, up 3. Now, I'm going to erase these black dots in just a minute. So over 1, over 2, over 3, over 4, and over 5. So right here is where I'm going to put my next purple dot. Let me erase all the other dots that I made here and put my purple dot right here. Let me erase those other ones. Again, yours is going to be way easier when you do it on IXL. Let me erase these other dots that I made. Whoops. I want to delete those, and I want to delete that one too. All right. Now that we have these we have two points. I shouldn't call them dots, they're points. We could have more. In fact, I'm going to make more because the more you make, the more accurate your drawing will be. So I went up 3 and over 5. And let me just sketch something here with my freehand here. This is what our line is going to kind of look like. Okay, it's going to go through those 2 points. Now, technically, a line, I don't remember, I think when you use the IXL, it does draw arrows. A line in mathematics goes on forever. Now, when you, like I said, when you do IXL, so it has these arrows to show that we go forever. When you do this in IXL, it will put the arrows on. Now, if you ever have to draw these yourself with a ruler, which I'm going to do in a minute, you'll need to draw the arrows yourself. So this was just freehand, but let me just be a little more accurate here by using the ruler. So I have a ruler here that I can use, and it's a little bit tricky, but I'll try to line it up there like that. Again, you don't need to use a ruler because IXL will do that for you. So there we go, close enough. So I will construct my line there, and if I can remember how to get rid of the ruler here, I'll put arrows on either side of this. Again, IXL will do that for you. So that's the first line that we've given, that they've given us, the one that I'm calling the purple line here. Okay. Now I want to do the green one next, so let me erase all my other little marks here. Let me erase that little circle there, and this one here. I'm going to do this next line in green, this one here, this one right here. This time my slope is, there's a number in front of that x, so I'm going to write it again. I'll write that equation again, but I'm going to write it over here. Okay. This time the slope, let me write that equation before I do anything else. My equation is in green, y is equal to, and I'll use a different color here, negative 1x. I know it doesn't look like it, but there is a negative 1 in front of that x, plus, and I'll do the b in blue again. So my slope here is negative 1, slope, but we want to write that as a fraction. We want to write it as negative 1 over 1. And my y-intercept, I want to abbreviate that just so I can, is negative 1 or negative 1 comma 0. So let me do that in blue. Negative 1, 0. So first, and I'm going to draw this in green, I want to start at negative 1, 0. Let me blow this up a bit. Right here, negative 1, 0. And then my slope is a negative 1. In other words, I want to emphasize here that this is a negative number, so my line's going to go, let me just draw it freehand for a second, downward, not upward. Okay, downward as we move from left to right. And how much down? Well, since my slope is, let me remind you that slope is, can anybody, let me see if anybody can help us out. Can anybody remember those 2 or 3 words that I said we're going to use for slope? If you know that, tell me, please. I don't want to go any further until I make sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Can anybody shout out to me and tell me what slope means, those 2 or 3 words that I said? Very good. The rise over the run. So I'm going to write it in here. You don't have to write this every time, but as long as you know what it is. The rise is negative 1, and the run is positive 1. Okay? And remember that line's going to go downward. So we're going to go down 1 and over 1. Let me zoom in on my graph again so we can see that better. And let me switch back to green. We're going to go down 1 and over 1. Down, let me do it in black. Down 1 and then over 1. And that's where I'll draw my green dot. Let me just keep doing that. Down 1 and over 1, down 1 and over 1. When you do this on IXL, you'll only have to do it once. And like I said, a line goes on forever. It doesn't just go in this direction. We could also keep going here. You don't need to with IXL, but keep in mind that you don't always have a computer to do this. So let me draw it freehand first. Our line will look like this kind of, which mine's not perfect here. But let me make the ruler. Let me use the ruler to make it better, okay? All right. Yeah, mine's a little bit sloppy here. Again, your IXL will be better. Let's get that ruler out here. And let's see if I can look up those dots here, those points, sorry. So if I draw this, I want to remind you that IXL is much neater than me, than I am right here. You'll see that these two lines cross, and the place they cross is going to be our answer. Let me use a different color here. My pen to work. Let me use a red dot. So they cross. Again, my accuracy on this tool isn't perfect. It's right about there. And so that point has an x coordinate and a y coordinate. The x coordinate is -5, right? This point right here is -5, and the y coordinate is +4, right? If we went 5 to the left and up 4, we would be at that point. So that's our solution in this problem. All right, so you guys are going to have a lot more graphs to do, but again, we've done these last semester, so just do one at a time, one graph at a time. Go ahead and sign into that while I take roll, and if you get stuck, I'll help you as soon as I finish with the roll. Go ahead and try that, everybody, please. Now, we only have a few short minutes in class today, but let's see if you can at least get signed in and get started. And as soon as I take the roll, I'll do another example. We'll do one together, I should say. All right, so let's see what I got here for roll. I'm going to stop the screen now, by the way.